Welcome to the Scale with Pros podcast with your host, myself, Cody Barton, the #1 place to be if you want to build a business beyond yourself. And for all the resources we talk about in the show, make sure to head over to scalewithpros.com. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. Scott, so excited to have you here. And, before we get started, would love to have you share a little bit with the audience listening in, a little bit about yourself, maybe your, background of, well, what the heck were you doing before, you've built this real estate business, and then your call center and everything else that you're doing right now, and kind of go through what that journey looked like, and then we'll dive in.
Sure, brother. Well, number one, I appreciate you having me on, man. Being able to kind of share my story as an outside entrepreneur to the REI space. I only found it like about 4.5 years ago now. I didn't do anything. I didn't know what a cap rate was. I didn't know what a wholesale transaction was. I didn't know any of that. So I had made all my money in other verticals. But ultimately, all those lessons and key tactics I did to scale those companies ultimately led me to build this monster. But you kind of asked where it started. I worked for a guy for like 10, 11 years, and there ended up being a point in the company where I was the COO, and it was a great synergy. It was a sales organization. I loved it. I was making good money, almost handcuff money, where you're like, you have a high-rise downtown, you have a Mercedes, you have enough to be like really, really stable. And then as opportunities arise, I was like, oh, I care more about this company than the CEO does. And so once I had that realization that like, okay, we were no longer swimming in the same direction at the same pace. Like we were always growing and scaling, but for whatever reason, we just had a bit of a gap, and it was with honor and pleasure that we separated. But I said, you know what? It's time for me to go out on my own and be my own man instead of working underneath of somebody.
Yeah, I love that. So that was kind of those beginning stages, and then now you have a real estate company, and for those that are watching maybe the video recording of this, you're standing in front of your team at your call center here. Do you want kind of tell us a little bit more about that? Like so you left there, and then did you just start in the call center space? Did you get into real estate? Like how did where you are now actually happen after you took that leap of faith?
Yeah, so I had always had marketing agencies. I made a lot of money selling leads to attorneys throughout the years, and so I was always dealing with people who were in kind of like a bad situation who needed an attorney, and we were doing prospecting for them, capturing those leads and then selling them to attorneys nationwide. They got really, really big to the point of where we were on like Rush Limbaugh and all the right wing, if you will, radio stations, and it grew into a very large 8-figure business doing a lot of good revenue. Ultimately, it's one of those things like Icarus touches the sun or flew too close to the sun, because as we got so much bigger, we drew a lot of attention. And regulatory-wise, attorneys technically shouldn't buy leads from non-attorneys. And so there was so ultimately, it was never us. We're not a bar member, so we didn't have to follow the regulations. But ultimately, there was enough regulatory pressure where it was like, okay, I'm going to need a new venture, and what is there to do? And a buddy had came to me for money throughout the years, and he kind of explained your guys' industry concept, or the wholesaling industry, to me. Yeah. And I was like, all I could think about, Cody, was like, I pictured like the mercantile exchange, somewhere in Chicago or wherever. I pictured like people grabbing a piece of paper, and I got this piece of paper and I'll sell it for this. And so like, I really fell in love, and I was enamored by it. But I did one quality check, though, first, Cody, which I think may be important to anybody who's in the REI space. I said, before I take resources and build out a machine and really go heavy, I said, I'm going to go on PPC, Google, and I typed in Sell My House Fast Orlando, because that was the market that I was sitting in. And I filled out a form on 10 websites, of which, in the 5 to 6 days that I was even tracking, only 4 people called me back. Nobody called me back same day. And of the 4 people that called me back, only one of them had what I would consider a sales process that I could feel that I was actually going through some type of mechanism and not just somebody like freestyle talking with no real intent. And I said, oh, this industry is like, ooh, wait a minute. This is a bunch of like micro cowboys out there that aren't unified, that don't have a lot of skills, training, at least that pocket that I called. And so that gave me the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to take all this talent that I have learned and amassed and wealth here, and I'm going to try to move it into the REI space.
I love that. That's so cool. And it's so funny, and it's so true. It's like people are spending money on marketing to drive the leads to, grow their business, and then they're not even calling, and or if they do, they're just kind of winging it.
Yes.
So
Yeah, it was eye opening because I know how much leads cost, and I'm like, okay, these guys got to be making so much money that they're not worried about. And at that time, I didn't understand because I was outside, but I figured it was at least $100 to a $250 lead, and it's like I just effectively caused, and I'm sorry, but $2,500 worth of opportunities to float around, and really only one person cared. And so I thought that was a unique opportunity. And then I started looking into the marketing channels for the REI space, and I said, all right, I need a low CPL because I didn't want to go super heavy. So that's when I
yeah.
said, I can't accomplish this onshore. So just like Start Virtual, just like our company, I said, hey, listen, I can find quality human beings that I know that I can create this certain environment with, so much so that I'm talking to you from Colombia, South America. So I moved
Oh,
here.
really? I was curious. I was like, where are you at
Yeah,
right now?
yeah. So this 12,000 square foot state of the art monster is in Colombia, South America. So that's what I literally said. I'm so committed to coming in and doing this. I'll move offshore. I took my wife, my two kids, who at that time were 4 and 2 years old, and I said, let's go. And here we are.
That's amazing. What part of Colombia are you in?
So everybody's heard of Medellin. It's the next city
Yes.
down called Pereira. It's part of the Coffee
Okay.
Triangle. So it's like a 40-minute flight, and over the mountains. You can drive to it, but you wouldn't. But yeah, so it's and it's home now, man. Like I'm fully Colombian, just white guy with blue eyes.
Yeah, I love that. I've been to Colombia a few times, mainly Medellin, is where we usually go hang out in El
Yeah,
Poblado, and so that's super cool. That's amazing.
yeah.
That's awesome. So okay, so obviously, and what does the team size look like now for those listening? This call center that you built out here in Colombia. What's the team look like?
Yeah. So we're really dialed into predominantly only one thing, which is just the outbound lead generation. Like I don't have
Hmm.
any other, we don't do bookkeeping, we don't do any of the ancillary services which are really, really needed, and particularly in the REI space. And I also don't do any vertical coding other than REI. I've been approached
Yeah.
by every solar guy, every roofing guy, but right now I just want to continue to make this to where I envision it to go, which I know there's still deeper in the pool to go. But as of right now, we got about 183, 185 people on payroll. Not
Hmm.
everybody's on the phone. Maybe about 110 are on the phones, and all the rest are like data. I have a whole data company data team. We have client success managers. We have team leads. For every 10 agents, you have one team lead. Then you have a floor support, and then you have the floor director. And I got a 23-person classroom, full on desks and everything that we call Lamassu University. And so, like, I think that from an outbound lead gen, I think that we've been able to at least carve our own little path. Like I don't scream too much. I don't go to events because I'm not in the United States. So for people who know
Yeah.
about us, they know about us. Other than that, we're just kind of serving our little client base, and that's it.
That's so cool. That's amazing. So, there's somebody listening on here right now that's like, oh my gosh, 180 something team members, moved to another country, like all this. I mean, probably overwhelming for someone that's like, all right, I'm excited about my business. I'm trying to get to my first couple hires. What would you say? Because obviously you took a big leap, which is I think a leap that a lot of people want to take, but sometimes maybe don't know what to do or don't have the confidence to do it. Where they have a really high paying position somewhere else, that the Mercedes, it's like they
Hmm.
got that really nice situation. And so they're, making that leap to, okay, now you're getting paid significantly less or not really much at all the first little bit when you're getting a new venture going. And then that next hard part of getting the first couple team members started in the business, what did that look like for you? I mean, you were sitting in a COO role before, so you already had experience with hiring and managing team members. But I guess what would you say to somebody that's listening and they're wanting to make that first or second hire, what recommendations would you have for them? Whether they're maybe where they want to hire them to work directly for their business. Any suggestions or pitfalls that you'd recommend for them to avoid?
Yeah, I haven't thought about this story in a long time, and it's going to sound different how it starts than how it ends. But Tony Robbins changed my life. And
Uh
so
huh.
one time when I was like, I don't know, this 15 years ago, right? When I was still working with that other guy or that guy I was telling you about, And I went to a
Yeah.
Tony Robbins event and we did the fire walk. And on like the
Yeah.
last day, they're like, oh, these DVDs are in the back. You can go buy DVDs because this is DVDs time, right?
Yeah.
So I go buy a box of DVDs. That's cool. I watch them. And then like the third DVD, there's a guy named Frank Kern, who's a digital
Yeah.
marketer out in California. And
Yeah.
he only said this one sentence that stuck out. He was like, yeah, because when I need help, I go to Elance, which is now Odesk, but it's like a place where you could hire VAs. And I
Yeah.
swear to you, Cody, from the bottom of my heart, I did not know that this concept existed. I was already the CEO, COO of another company. I had
Yeah.
no clue that I could hire a guy who was uber talented in like PPC or development and all these other things that I needed. That paradigm right there was literally like the first time that my mind said, okay, oh, here's this advantage that I can't be the only one who doesn't really know how to leverage. So I hired guys from Pakistan, I hired guys from Afghanistan. Like I was starting at the very bottom because I didn't know what I was doing and I was being cost conscious. You get what you pay for. I learned, but
Yeah.
the reality is I think for a lot of guys and gals, if they're looking to isolate some of their stuff because it's not cost prohibitive, finding a quality resource, whether it be for your accounting, my executive assistant with love, is one of the most important people in my entire organization. Now I have people with high college degrees and uber years of experience,
Yeah.
but that type of tasks and roles for you as the visionary, when you can offload some of the more menial stuff, and it doesn't matter if it's, hey, submit my online grocery order, hey, here's my gas bill, my whatever, my mortgage, whatever it is, anything that you can go off. So, anyways, I'm a big proponent on if you're a smaller team, finding the stuff that average Joe can do and then get that off to them so that way you can focus on the more highly skill centric roles in your company and then hire to fill those.
Yeah, I love that. So it's like identifying like those, more administrative type of things that need to be done, but it just doesn't need to be done by you. So I think
Exactly.
that's like that framework of like, okay, those the first thing you want to take off your plate are some of those more administrative things. And I could definitely agree with you on, my executive assistant, Rochelle, is amazing. She's actually on PTO this week, and I'm like, I haven't eaten breakfast today because it's like she usually makes sure I get food, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have to like fend for
Uh-huh.
myself this week,
I
and
know
I'm
it.
like, gosh, dang it. But it's when you get those amazing team members in, it's like it just can elevate the time that you can do on other things. And I think your point that I think a lot of people miss is not even just having like an admin or an executive assistant that can do like business related things like scheduling and coordinating events and travel and things like that. But I have Rochelle that coordinates all my house stuff too, like paying the
100%.
mortgage. She makes sure I have, our dog pooper scooper lady comes and our trees are trimmed and the landscape
Yep.
and the cleaners. And like, it's like all of those things that take up sometimes not even that much time for ourselves to do, but it's like the mental bandwidth of having to think about it when we could be thinking about how can we better serve our customers? How can we better help our team members, coming up with a new idea, new strategies. And, I think a lot of those things hold people back because they keep doing all of those basic admin. Not all of them are basic. I don't want to,
Sure.
make it seem like, some of those things are more complicated to solve for, but, it's like that's one of the first steps I think a lot of entrepreneurs have to take is removing a good chunk of some of those personal items plus a lot of the business admin items off their plates.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So,
And it frees up my nights. I have kids, so I'm blessed to have two wonderful, amazing daughters. But they typically go to bed around 6:30 or 7. And so here in Colombia, everybody has nannies. So I hopped on that program real quick. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have two
yeah.
nannies and long guys and all this other stuff. But in the evenings, not having to worry about the credit card bill, not having to worry about all this other stuff, just because somebody else has already administrated that, it's been a boon for me. In regards to hiring people up front in person, I'm also a real big proponent of your initial copy, sales copy that you use in your ad. I think that a lot of people just either copy and paste or they write this kind of generic thing. No, this is your actual first impression. And so I put a lot of time and effort into the actual copy that they will see first, whether it's a video collateral, whether it's written text, whether it's our broadcast messages that send out after they fill out that first message. Like I am so dialed into that funnel because I am selling them on me, my company, my vision. And I don't want any gaps in expectations. Like, you come in here, I'm a high velocity guy, I'm laying it all out front. I want that to conflict with you if you're not that person. I want you to be like, this isn't me, and I want it to start at the copy. I don't even need you to fill out this resume application if this doesn't appeal to you. So, anyways, I spend more time on the assets to bring people in than I think a lot of other CEOs do.
I love that. And I relate so heavily with that, that literally like in some of our individual contributor roles, we, don't go as heavy as this, but like I have like in manager roles and above, like there's a section in our job description that goes out that's, there's two parts to it. It's like who you are and then who you're not. And like listing out like, if you read the things in who you are and it resonates with you, it's like you should probably apply for this. But if you're who you are not, if you're reading these and you feel like that's you, you should probably just avoid this job completely and move on to the next one. Yeah, it's just like super clear. And we just onboarded is his second day today, our a new senior marketing specialist, and that was one of the things that he was just like, yeah, when I was reading like the who you are, he was like, I was just like, that's me. Like I like to do more than expected. I want to get the results done. I want to be the team player. I want to, I'm not someone that makes excuses. Like I don't like being around people that do that. So it's like these things that, I'm such a big believer on that too. And I think I'm always, I always tell our team, it's like businesses don't move people, people move businesses. And so it's like the better quality talent that we bring in, it's like our people can fix all of the problems that we have. Yep. It's just we're always one who away from solving that next challenge in the business or the next constraint that's, stopping our growth. And so I'm a big believer in that. And I love the, building that funnel. Because I think, like you said, not enough people focus on that. And if somebody's like brand new and they're hiring their first person, like don't overcomplicate it so much that you get analysis paralysis. But as you start hiring multiple team members and building out these departments, it's, probably, to me, it's like one of my most important things that we focus on in our team is like, how do we bring in the best talent we can, pay them competitively, give them incentives, make sure that there's alignment of, like you said, that mission, vision, core values in the organization. So like we're all rowing in that same direction. Kind of like you said from, that role that you had left, it's like, if your team doesn't feel like they're rowing in the same direction as the company, they'll leave.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love what you said. And for all the people who go through it and you're just starting out, your who you're not list will grow over time. Because as you have attrition, which is going to happen, it's not always a reflection of you as the CEO or the leader. You're going to hire the bad hires. You're going to wing it out. It's just going to happen as part of it. But then you start itemizing, what are those things or those characteristics I didn't like about that person, and grow that who you aren't out so that way you can do a little bit better. I'm not as aggressive as what I'm about to say as I used to be with this, but I'm a big proponent of, hire slow, fire fast. I'm still on the hire slow side because we have such a big incubation timeline. Like they still get paid the same like they're active on the phones, but they go through a 60-day sprint before they've actually graduated in my company. So it's like American Ninja Warrior. Like if you can make it through 60 days with me, you're good. So I don't have to per se fire fast. I just have now set up enough obstacles and barriers where I can do it at volume, where then weak naturally fall off. The people who aren't going to be comfortable for it naturally fall off. So if my 20 may go down to 14, but I'm happy with that 14. And then ultimately that 14 may go down to 8. But that 8, we're lifers now, baby. It's a time or circumstance is the only reason why they would leave us.
I love that too. And I'm curious, in your experience, if you've had a different experience in this, but like something I was talking to our head of operations about was, we were just kind of like talking about, a role that, somebody that didn't work out that we had to let go about a month ago. And, we were thinking about, and we were just sitting chatting, and we're like, what's interesting is I asked her, I'm like, have you ever had a time in any of your past roles that you've been in, or, even here, where we had someone in the company that came in and within the first 60 days was just not doing good at all and just wasn't performing and wasn't, doing a great job, that magically they just became amazing after that 60 days, even with coaching. And we were just looking at each other and I've never seen that. I've never had someone that kind of, wasn't great and the first 60 days magically become great. And that was we've kind of identified that as our timeline. Obviously, if there's like a, massive core value, unalignment in the first couple of weeks, like we'll have to, let someone go sooner. But we kind of look at that like 60 days of like, okay, we know in 60 days that they're either going to be awesome or they're not. And, it's, I don't know if you've had a different experience or kind of what time frame you kind of give. Obviously, it's a little bit different based on the role too,
Sure.
with what you're, what training they're going through or what the role they're actually fulfilling. But I'm curious on that because, sometimes when, it's like hire, slow, fire fast, it's, some people, it's like, how fast is fast or how slow,
Yeah, I think for me, and like you said, it varies by the position, but I'm a real big proponent of like, I hire good people and then make them great at their role. And so what I'm really looking for is like, are you a good human being? If you're a scumbag,
Yeah.
like if you're doing weird things, if you have these mannerisms or aura about you that I couldn't detect during the onboarding process that later pop up, if you just got a bad vibe, if you look like you're hung, whatever it may be, you can tell when somebody's not necessarily a genuine good person. Because if you're a good person, the rest is kind of easy. Like we're going to teach you phone sales, we're going to teach you operations, we're going to teach you data management. Like obviously you need to have some skill sets for certain education levels, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera. But my number one core variable is like, are you a good human being, or do you got a hustle muscle? And if you got that, bro, like I'm gonna make you money. It's just I can do it.
Yeah.
I'll make you money as long as you're a good person and you like to work.
I love that. So you have 180 plus team members there at the call center. I'm just now more curious for my end. What's the end goal for you with what you're building? Is it to just have the biggest call center for the real estate space over the years to come, and that's build that forever? Is it something you're going to grow, eventually sell it? Is it grow real estate to a certain size and then expand other industries, or what are what's the ultimate vision that you have for the company?
It's different than I would have expected when I went into this.
Yeah.
When I went to it, my vision was not this because I don't need. I value money. I love money. It drives me. But I don't. If this all shut
Yeah.
down, like life's good. Like we're good.
Yeah.
But I still came into. I was like, I'm gonna dominate the REI space. I'm gonna take over everybody. Get out of the way. I came in there just for myself. I was only going to be my own client. And then like somebody at a mastermind heard about my company and they were like, hey man, can I get some callers too? And I was like, I guess. Like okay. Like well, I don't even know what to charge you, bro. And then so I was on my own for like a year, and then I had my first client, and then another guy was like, and then before you know it, like I was like, oh wait a minute, this is a business. Wait. So you just never know what's around the corner. I do know though, based on our data company and how we're at, dude, we did 59 million outbound dials last year just out of this office. And
That's
so
amazing.
the KPI and data points, I suspect one day there should be somebody at a hedge fund or less level that comes in and is like, hey bro, we got to talk. So you never know what'll ultimately happen. My true goal though is to give these amazing kids a change in their life that they never would have had I not came down here. And give these guys, this is the safest place, this is the best place in town, this is the best office in town, I'm the highest paying call center in town. Like
Yeah.
that is my why, which is there's 100 and some kids here that have a better life with love, and I say this so humbly. In my heart of hearts, I believe, and I know based on their feedback, they have a better life than had I not made that crazy decision to be like, I'll just start my own call center for myself. And so
Yeah.
that's the end result, is just to keep on providing employment, dominating what we can in the REI space, and we'll just see what pops out ahead.
Yeah. I love that. That's so cool. It's amazing, when I feel like that's something that I evolved into. Like when first starting in business, you're like, I just want to make a bunch of money. Like I want to, like live this lifestyle and be able to do these things with my friends and family. And then like as it grows and you have this team and then you build the relationships, you're like, how can we? And I think it's a sign of a great leader, Scott. It's when you as you start building, and it's just like, how can I help these people that I work with, create their version of their best lives within what you're growing, and how can we have an effect on them financially, but then also from a personal development standpoint of like helping them believe in themselves more than they did before they came here, and how we can help show them a better better way of thinking and a better way of life and what life could be like versus what it has been, So I definitely resonate with
You
that.
hit on something that means a lot to me. Two small points. Number one is I didn't know that was going to be a high until it happened, right? And so, like, the very first
Yeah.
kid who came to me was like, dude, I just bought my first moto. I'm like, oh, cool, dude's going out. He's so excited. He's got his own moto now. He's not taking the bus. And then the first kid bought their first car. And they're like, hey, man, can we have marketing come? I want to capture it so I can send it to my family in the States. And it's like, now this guy can now get married now. And this guy's going on his first time on a flight. And, like, all these things are happening. Dude, I save every screenshot that these kids send me. Like, so I didn't know it was going to be a drug until I started getting high from it. And I was like, oh, I need more of this. So I'll keep that around. But talking about the confidence part, and you may have some level of experience with this as well, too. Hiring for phone sales, because we go really deep into the sales process here. But hiring from phone sales, my biggest setback, if you will, coming into this town is there was no other sales organizations here, only customer service. And so you have kids who have done customer service 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Oh, yes, sir. I'm so sorry, ma'am. And so their
Yeah.
actual phone confidence and personal confidence is so low because for 8 hours out of a day, they get beat up and beat up and beat up, and they're constantly apologizing. They can't stand up for themselves. They can't tell a customer back off or they lose their job, et cetera, et cetera. So when they come in here, their shoulders are low, their heads are a little down. And I have to build that phone confidence up by building their personal confidence up, giving them the tools and stuff to do so. But it's so cool to see them start to have a little swag, and now they walking around like a little peacock in the office. It's cool.
That's so fun. It was funny when you were talking about Tony Robbins. I did UPW like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago.
Yep.
Did the walk on the
Yep.
fire, and it's cool, just going through the growth and all these different types of events, and that's awesome. So I'm curious. So what's the focus on? Like, are you still focused on your real estate business and too, or is it pretty much all on the call center now?
No. So I'm my own biggest client, and so like back in the
Okay.
excuse me, back in the '90s, there was it was called Hair Club for Men. The guy used to go on the TV, and he would say, not only am I the CEO, but I'm my own biggest client. So my own biggest
Yeah.
client. I don't take anybody in Central Florida. Central Florida is my market. I got 5 closers there today. I got a sales director there and my partner there. And so like we do Central Florida. We've now also started to do some self-storage facilities nationwide. And so all of this has happened as a byproduct of this here. Because first I thought
Yeah.
I was going to be, and I'm going to use a drug dealer reference. Every drug dealer out there, every user who becomes a drug dealer, I'm just talking about potheads or whatever, but they're like, hey, I'm going to sell my friend this bag so that way I can get mine for free.
Yeah.
And that's how I thought about taking a client for the first time. I was like, you know what? Shit, if I just take 3 clients, the money I can make for those 3 clients will pay for my marketing over here, and I can be a top wholesaler, REI, and be for free. And then
Yeah.
ultimately I was like, oh, so this is a revenue channel, and this is a revenue channel. So my goal is to continue to support our Orlando team. I still have an Orlando house. I just don't go there. We Airbnb it out all the time. But have those guys grow that nucleus there. I wasn't able, as of yet, to truly dominate bringing the closing role here. I've struggled to bring in the comping and closing here offshore.
Yeah.
I really have, and it's a failure, and it's a big red flag when I look at this where I'm at right now. But I've been able to do this, and so right now I'm just feeding my market here, and then I take clients nationwide, et cetera, et cetera. So I continue to grow our real estate portfolio, continue to do wholesale and novations in Central Florida, while also supplying clients nationwide with outbound cold call leads.
I love that. It's so funny hearing your story on like how you actually started the call center business, because we, Pace and I, in our real estate business, we had like 3 U.S. based acquisition reps, and then we had close to 20 people in the Philippines that were doing everything from like admin to cold calling
Yep.
to lead management for our AC reps, and we were doing a good amount of deals, and it kind of sprouted out of a similar thing where a couple of our friends, to come hang out at our office and be like, how are you guys doing so many deals with only freaking 3 people on your team? And we're like, we don't have 3 people. We have like 23 people. They're all virtual and, doing a lot of the other functions. And it's funny that you said that about the closers and the comping. Never could really get that great either in the Philippines with that
Yeah.
staff. Like closers, just something's tough with that. But but that was kind of how it started with us. Is like we had friends who were like, can you help me get, some team members? And we're like, sure. Like, and our partner Daryl in the
Yeah.
Philippines was like, Daryl, can you help my friend out? And he's like, sure. And we did that with like a couple friends, and then they told a couple friends, and they're like, hey, like I heard you helped so and so get some virtual assistants to help with their cold calling and their admin. I'm sick of dealing with like my list polling and uploading the data and doing all that. And it was really funny because that's kind of how it started. We're like, well, if we could just get enough people, to cover our costs, then it's like it's all just, it's covering it and it's great. And so we started, and then we're like, this is actually like you said, it's like, this is actually a business. Yeah. So, and that was March of 2020 is when we got started.
But Cody, when I hear you say that story, the way that you described it in the beginning, it's like, hey, it was our 3 acquisitions and then our team in the Philippines. And even though the common nomenclature is virtual assistants, I know you didn't say, oh, and we got these 20 VAs. No, like they were part of your team. You treated them as such. And I think that's where a lot of people screw up with VAs. Even myself, when I hired my first one, I didn't really appreciate or understand, like, okay, no, you still got to, this is different. Like, if you want a VA, those exist. But if you want a strategic assistant in your business, you're going to pay a little bit more. You're going to treat them different. And you got to change that mental concept. And so I know that's what did it for you guys, because you weren't treating them like the rest of the industry treats these people. Like, I pay $4 an hour for a guy in Egypt or wherever it may be. And I expect them to do all this work, and I'll never check in on them.
Yeah, no, it's, and that's the thing that was one of the biggest challenges that, we've had just transparently as a company is like, and so we've created all these trainings to help people, but it's like, you can't, this isn't a software, guys. Like, you don't just buy it and plug them in. Like, these are people that you have to pour into, just like any other person on your team. You're having them, in on your team meetings. You're having them in. You're building culture with them. You're creating incentive plans for them as well. You're rewarding them. You're promoting them. You're doing all of the same things you would do with like U.S.-based team members. It's just different pay scales, yes, but there's different. You're not like, because I would talk to people that were having, in our initial stages, they're having trouble with their team members. And, we'd have a conversation like, how often are you meeting with them? And they're like, oh, I haven't met with them since they onboarded. I'm like, it's been a month and a half. What do you mean? Like, of course they're not performing well. You don't talk to them. You don't even give them feedback. Like, God forbid you get on and just like have a conversation about what maybe their struggle is and figure out how we can help, So I think that's one of the challenges that I know we see in the industry and in general. Is just a lot of people, they just treat it as like, I'm just going to buy this, and then there's this human that's just going to like solve my problems and I don't have to talk to them.
So following on that, that's like a risk reward, and I think if people don't appreciate it, if you don't build that relationship, even more so than a traditional employee, you have to understand the microeconomics, candidly, of that person. They will leave you in the middle of whatever project for any reason for pennies or dollars more. It may like, oh, they got paid 50 cents more, but to them that's an extra, maybe, I don't know, 15% of their salary or 10%. And so it's like, you have to have a relationship with these people, because if they feel it's transactional, you will be treated as a transactional a boss. And so for me, what I tried to do, full disclosure, I had hired a team in the Philippines, couldn't get it. I hired a team in, well, they didn't say they were in Egypt. They told me in Costa Rica. I found out later they were in Egypt. Doesn't matter. Anyways, I hired this other group, and somehow that was even worse. And then finally I was just like, I told my business partner, I was like, dude, Colombia, I did enough research. I went on some groups and stuff. It's like, dude, I'm going to just go down here, because I couldn't, the requirements that I have from them, I truly believe that I need to be here and build this culture the way that we've built this culture. And so the more interactive, whether it's via computer or not, for everybody who has VAs or has teams, interactive, right? I try to lead by example. I try to make sure that they understand I'm highly accessible. I have a glass office in the back. Everybody can see in, anybody can come in, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, man, it takes the touch to build the relationships. If you want to make money off of somebody, invest in them. And it ain't just dollars, it's time.
100%. That's something we heavily are, I joke around, like, we don't, like, around the office or like with our team members, they don't really make book recommendations. They make like book prescriptions. Like, hey, you want to go to this next level? Like, I'm literally prescribing you to read this book too.
So let me ask you this, because I just gave all these guys, all my TLs, Gapology, which is a book that somebody recommended me. I read it. I thought it was good. I thought it would be great for them.
Yeah.
Anyways, So how are you calibrating on them to see when they finish it? Because everybody's got kind of different reading paces. If you recommend or prescribe, what are you guys doing to see if they actually follow through with it?
Yeah, so I'm typically doing that with like my direct reports, right?
Yes.
So what I'll do with them is like any of my direct reports, we do weekly one-on-ones.
Yep.
So in our weekly one-on-ones, we do a check-in, what's going well. We go through something, we call it our PPFs, their personal, professional, financial goals. We set those annually, and then we do a quick touch base every single week, like
Yep.
where are they at personally, professionally, financially, and then we have like our book, whatever book that they're currently reading. So it's literally every week I'm like asking, like, hey, you're reading 21 Laws of Success by John Maxwell. Like, where are you at? Like, what's the biggest takeaway that you've had? And sometimes it's transparently, it's like, oh, this last week I haven't made any progress,
Yeah.
but this weekend I'm planning on reading, X chapters, and then it's just that's something that's going to be brought up again the next week because it's just something that's brought up every time because it's literally one of the things. And once the book's finished, then we add another book to the list, and then we just talk about it, and in just that open dialogue in the one-on-ones with them, and then through our one-on-ones as well, we look at like previous action items from, anything from the week before, any, roadblocks, obstacles that they're experiencing that I could help them, move out of their way, and then any coaching that, I may need to do with them in there. But that's what I found like is most effective with my direct reports. I haven't figured how to successfully roll that out like company-wide of like, okay, everyone's reading the same book and like checking in on that. But
Somehow Oprah figured that out. She had that damn book club.
yeah.
I'm gonna steal that from you, Cody, though, because I want to do that with my TL and my directors. We have a DOS, director of sales, and then our team leads. It's only like 5 guys there, but those 6 people, it makes sense too. But what you said as you were thinking, I was like, oh, it's my own favorite quote that I heard. I didn't come up with this, but as a CEO, it's probably the most important quote that I had ever heard, and it's people don't do what you expect, they do what you inspect. And so that's literally the answer to my own question. As soon as you said that, it's like, oh, it's because he's inspecting their progress weekly. So, duh. You're not going to do it because here's a great book that'll change your life and make you more money. I'm telling you a book that will make you more money, and people don't read it. Like this one book could change. And when I sit in front of people and I'm like, hey, this one book, I have multiple, a huge home library. I thrive on reading. But it's like, hey, this book clearly made me a millionaire. And then you recommended somebody, and they're like, "That's cool." I'm like, no, bro, like read that shit.
It's like read it. So it's $20. I'll buy it for you. Like read it.
I brought in a big chunk of books in the back for these guys as well too. That's great, man. I think you literally answered the question exactly how I needed to hear it.
Yeah, and I think it's like with with the book recommendations, it's also knowing like, especially your leaders, like, I mean, that's something that's just like an expectation, like coming in that I share with them. I'm like, look, I draw out for them. I'm like, our company will only be stopped by our constraint of our leadership. And so I always explain that to anyone that's in a leadership role. So I'll tell them, I'm like, look, we may grow, a particular company that we're working on. Say we grow it to 10 million a year, 5 million a year, whatever the revenue range is. And there will be a point when the growth will stagnate based on the lid of the leaders that are running that company and the different departments. And so our job, my job is, I'm not excluded from this. I always tell them, I'm like, I am also a part of this as well, is all of us must be growing to be able to continue to raise the lid, because if we don't, it's selfish of me, it's selfish of everyone on the team to not grow, because what we're doing in our organization is as we continue to grow, we open up new, operations coordinator roles, manager roles, director roles, senior director roles. The more we grow, the more opportunity there is as a company. And it's not okay for us to stagnate our growth based on, having non-learners in leadership roles. So, if at any point we have team members and we just have open conversation, like if someone's not open to continuously learning in their specific skill or their personal development, maybe they need to grow their leadership abilities, they're going to have to be moved to a different role. And it's just constantly communicated about, because I don't want to be the bottleneck for why we're not growing as a company. And I also share, I can't have them be that either. And it's not out of like, oh, like I'm going to put someone else in your spot. It's just, no, like we are promising these opportunities of what our mission is as a company and what our vision is. And for us to continuously live that out, all of us have to be on this path of growth together, or one of us is going to be the bottleneck, preventing everyone else from achieving their goals and their dreams. And so that's a really big part for us.
And it happens at scale. and you can feel it. It creates a tension in the air, and you can't allow. I always say people either rise to the highest acceptable standards or sink to, I think it's like sink to the lowest acceptable standards, however the quote goes.
Yeah.
And you can see that in an environment. So if you have everybody progressing but one department or one person or two are holding it down, it creates a tension. I like that tension. I like it when the other people come to me and it's like, hey,
Yeah.
listen, this guy ain't getting it, and then you go in to try to corrective, but et cetera, et cetera. But if they're not willing to self-improve, at least in this environment, like I want these guys so ruthless with love because we're at war every
Yeah.
day on the phones. If somebody doesn't hit bonus, I'm cool with them not even wanting to sit beside them at lunch. Like, like we want to keep this bad boy just pumping and jumping at all times. And so
Yeah.
creating that culture, it allows the spotlight to be shown on the people who aren't actually living up to that
Oh
ethos.
yeah. And it like squirms because it's like you said, it's like business always grows to whatever the constraint is, which is where the least performance is. So it's like if sales are marketing's cranking but sales isn't going, marketing's going to be upset because they're generating the leads,
Yep.
and then the sales aren't going, so then we're not growing, and then fulfillment isn't getting enough opportunity
Yep.
to do their thing. So it's like every area, it's like as a couple departments grow and become better, it's like it creates that pressure on the other ones. And one of the things that we just rolled out is part of our we do reviews twice a year instead of like just like a one annual review, and it's the halfway through the year mark, so we're doing it in June. And we started this process because I'm like, how do I help? So it's like everyone is buying into, okay, our mission, vision, values, but also providing feedback to other departments where there might be lagging. So we're doing this peer review process of having the different leaders of departments do, peer reviews of
Wow.
all of the departments together. And so we'll see how it goes, because this is the first time we're doing it this June. And then every individual contributor roles
Sure.
are doing them as well. But it's going to be interesting because instead of me, saying, hey, like we're struggling in this area and, here are some of the areas of opportunity, it's all of everyone's peers sharing where those struggles are. For me too, it's like if they're thinking that there's some leadership issues, like I want the feedback too, because
Yeah.
if I'm blind to it, and I don't want to be blind to it, I need feedback too of what I could do better. But so we're starting that peer review process to see, okay, how well is finance versus marketing versus sales versus operations, doing from a leadership standpoint, following our core values, and areas of opportunity or improvement or suggestions, so that we can all have an open discussion. And once we get that feedback, myself and our leaders of those departments, we're all going to sit down and let's go through it.
Yeah.
Let's see what everyone had to say, and let's have some honest
And,
conversations.
and I can just tell by the vibe and the synchronicity or how we're gelling that you have a culture that supports what I'm about to say. But doing that tactic and not having a circle of trust would be a futile effort. Because if people can't be honest and say the nitty gritty, the thing that they just been biting their tongue about a little bit, but now you're giving them an opportunity to express it, then it means nothing. All the paper might as well just be thrown in the trash. We want the
Yep.
critical feedback. Yes, we'll take some praise too, but the point is this is an opportunity for us all to huddle together. Let's hash it out. Ultimately, these peer reviews, and then whatever fits. We're all going to take it like grown adults, and then we're going to go back out there into our field. But you would never get that type of candidness that you need for that type of task unless you have a culture of, this is a brotherhood. We're allowed to say some stuff.
Yes.
Let's roll.
Yeah. 100%. And I think you hit it on the head. It's like, the organization has to have that trust built. And I think is a big part of, it's our job. It's our job as the leaders of the organization to instill that, and that it's okay to have those conversations. And that's why, like for me, I intentionally throw myself in there and like I'll lead the charge of like, sharing the things that I think that I'm doing, I need to be better at, just to like open it up.
Yep.
And like, hey guys, like I'm not perfect either. None of us are perfect. Where this conversation isn't to, or when we're having these types of conversations, it's not, a threatening thing or like, oh, like someone's going to lose their role. It's more of, okay, we all need to recognize none of us are perfect and we all want to improve. And what's the best way? We'll have the people closest to us that may see some blind spots, share some feedback, and like give us some, some tough love. And, we walk out of there and we're all, yeah, maybe some feelings got a little hurt.
Yeah,
Like,
it's gonna
"Ooh,
hurt.
like I'm really
It's
doing
gonna
that.
hurt."
I'm not doing my dang,
Yep.
but then leaving that and, actually making a real change in the business. Cause I think, like you said, it's like a lot of organizations, they'll just tiptoe and it's like, yeah, this department's been screwing up for the last 6 months, but don't want to rock the boat, so we're just going to let it keep screwing up, and hopefully it gets better, even though we're not doing anything different.
Or even worse, or at least something I experienced for a brief period of time, where people thought that that was my favorite department, so therefore they didn't share their critiques of it. They thought like, well, that's Scott's, that's his crew, that's his. Because I get excited about sales more than I do financing, and I get excited about marketing more
Yeah.
than I do data, and so like all of a sudden it's
Yeah.
like that's Scott's homies. I'm using that. They would never say those words. But
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that's Scott's boy, so we don't want to tell him these things that we see because either A, he won't do anything about it because he loves it, he's so in love with it, he must already see it or whatever. And so I had to work on that amongst the teams and say, hey, listen, just where my attention goes, A, I'll work to dissipate it more equally. But the reality is that I'm a sales guy, so I'm going to be driving the sales operations and marketing, but I needed everybody's equal feedback. So that's something that we went through about a year and a half ago where there was an issue in the department that people weren't bringing to me that was Saul that everybody noticed. They just assumed I would know because I was either close enough or I wouldn't care because I was so happy with their performance.
Gosh, isn't it so interesting when we learn about some things like that? Like we had like a year ago, we were acquiring a new company, and like I was spending a ton of time with our CFO because I mean we were working on a lot of stuff with legal,
Yeah.
finance, reviewing the financials. Like it was just a lot of heavy work on that. And I had a team member just mention they're like that my CFO Ben is like, it's like, oh, that's just who you always spend time with, and that's the only person that you're like trying to pour into. And I'm like, do you not see we just bought a company and like part of that is heavily financially related? So
Yeah.
that's where like there was so much extra time. It's not like some special treatment. It's
Yeah.
just someone's got like that's a very financially related event that's occurring from like reviewing financials, auditing financials, making sure we're setting up how we're going to acquire it, reviewing insurances, reviewing legal agreements, and so much of that touches finance. And it's funny. It just made me think about that because sometimes the team sees what we're doing, but they don't fully like have the whole picture of like why we're doing something too.
Yeah, I just thought of something crazy about your business that I really appreciate about how you have to train your own clients to treat their people because even me, this is a 12,000 square foot office. It's a healthy size, right? But even
Yeah.
with my accounting team and HR being around the corner and in the front, I don't see them once I walk off that elevator. I come in, I don't see them the entire day. The lack of appreciation for what they do subconsciously as a human, like that part that I just can't control because I don't see them all day. So I assume they're not going crazy is the exact same thing that person said because like you're always with them and everybody's, oh, they're just laughing, they're doing these things. But that's also the same thing with VAs is because if we're human enough where if we don't even see the person in the next room over, how are you really treating your VA that you hired through Start Virtual all the way on the other side of the country if you don't even make the effort to see them and get an appreciation for the work that they're actually doing and et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
100%. No, I love that. So, and gosh, the time flew by so fast as we were talking through.
We
I
didn't
think
even talk
we
anything
gel in a lot of
REI.
these.
Damn, I got so many
Yeah.
nuggets for the REI space where I know what leads are performing, data's performing, markets, I got it all.
I love it. No, I mean, again, it's like these are the things that actually help businesses grow, and these are the challenges that it's like a lot of people don't talk about, and it's like how do you help support the team members and make sure that they're successful, but and being cognizant of the time. What are some things that you would share with those, I guess just any of the nuggets that you would share with just, beginning entrepreneurs, kind of any of the entrepreneurs that are like that, maybe a couple $100,000 a year to maybe they're up to about $1 million a year in revenue, maybe just some lessons or some thoughts that you would love to share with them that would maybe help them go to that next level?
I think that my number one absolute piece of gold I'd put on my tombstone for being a CEO would be accountability. And I don't even feel like the word accountability is a good enough word. Like I need to go back into Latin and figure out how the word accountability even came about and find out what its root is and go over it because a lot of people think that like, oh, people don't like helicopter parents or helicopter bosses or micromanagers. And that's true, but you're taking accountability and not conveying it in the right way. But the number one thing for me as a CEO is to make sure that they understand that I am aware of what their KPI should be. I'm aware of what their work habits should be. And I'm going to hold them to a higher standard so they can make a higher standard of money. And so I am just all about extreme accountability on both sides. Like, you check my numbers, I'm gonna check yours. We're gonna check everybody's performances. It's fully transparent. It is almost every day, just like the movies. And let's see who made the football team. And there's that little piece of paper on the wall. Like, that level of accountability where
Yeah.
everybody's numbers are transparent. Everybody is held to a standard. Nobody drops below that standard. And a lot of CEOs are like, oh, I don't want to step on their toes. I don't want to micromanage. No, because you're doing it to help them. And as long as you help them in that vision, you're not actually micromanaging, you're micro improving them. And if you can micro improve
Yeah.
someone over a year or two, you now have a beast. You created a beast in your operation. And so that's like the one thing that I always think about when somebody asks me something similar.
Yeah, I love that. I think, one of the things that I tell our team, because that just kind of came to mind, is like, I tell our leaders, it's like certain roles, like sales especially, it's like, it has to be checked on constantly,
Yeah.
because it's like, okay, what was the activity today? What was the activity yesterday? What was the result? So it's like, it's very
Yep.
much like checking in very frequently. And, what I look at, like with, a lot of the roles in our company, I tell, my leaders, I'm like, look, like new people starting, so they understand like how we work. I'm like, look, I'm not going to micromanage you. We set our annual goals. We have quarterly, objectives or rocks based on the operating
Yep.
system we use. And your role, we come together and we establish what success looks like over 30, 60, 90 days for the role. And once we're clear on what winning looks like, go win.
Yep.
I don't care how the sausage is made. It's just we co-created what the end results of what the sausage should look like. And now I just want to coach you to that. And I want to remove obstacles and barriers out of your way if there's things that need to be done. But, I just want to coach you to that result and let them run. It's like getting that right talent, putting the who in the seat, and then just coaching them to win.
So I'm confident even in that viewpoint, though, you have some type of barometer where if they fail in that, it's going to set off some type of trigger. So there's still a box
Oh
that they
yeah,
have to perform
100%.
in.
Yeah, they still have their KPIs. We still, I still have the numbers where I could be reviewing those,
Yep.
the weekly one-on-ones that we're doing. We're checking in on the performance and what's happening, what's off track, on track. In our, company meetings too. So definitely.
What's really unique and difficult, though, about having a sales team surrounded by other departments is the sales guys always get the most attention and they make the most amount of money for the most part.
Yeah.
And so you have these culture
Yeah.
clashes. Like, do you really want to stand in front of the accounting team and the marketing team and the data team and be like, here's today cash spiffs on the leads, where these guys can't make cash spiffs because they're in different projects?
Yeah.
It's just the law of the land. It's very difficult. It took me a while to navigate how do you create a cohesive culture where you have many like things inside of it. But on this accountability thing, I'm a stickler on even stuff like just like showing up to work on time, like
Yeah.
extended breaks or all of a sudden something that's crazy, because it's just not fair if these guys are accountable or those girls are accountable that these other people aren't accountable. And so I think we've created a disciplined culture here that's helped propel us probably faster than if we didn't have those standards set in place.
Yeah, I love that. And so, what would be, it's kind of one of the cheesy ones, but I just always love getting book recommendations from other CEOs, and like what, anything that you'd suggest. I mean, for me or anyone else that's listening in that, is a leader of a company, like whether it's maybe a favorite book on leadership or on growing and developing, high performing teams, any books that you would recommend?
I just finished Discipline is Destiny like 2 days ago, which I'm a big person on. I'm a big person on everything that's discipline oriented. I also just bought Genghis Khan biography. I just bought a couple of the other like warriors. I'm really big on those
Mm-hmm.
types of things. But in
Yeah.
regards to personal books, man, dude, it's there's so many I don't even know exactly where to start. Other than I love everything John Maxwell, love everything Zig Ziglar. I'm an old school head. I want to improve my mindset at all times. I want to put so much good stuff into my mind that when something negative hits me, it bounces off. Like, I am filled with good stuff. And so I
Yeah.
really am just a big proponent on all things sales books and self-help books.
Yeah. I'm a big fan on those too. The Zig Ziglar. Actually, it's really funny you said that. When I was 16, my parents had a whole CD set by Zig Ziglar, and when I was 16 years old, I listened to every single one. It was like a freaking 30 CD set that I went through, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like that was kind of like during my interest into getting into entrepreneurship. But yeah, I
Those
love me
seeds,
some Zig Ziglar.
bro. Zig Ziglar, dude. I cried the last time I saw him before he passed away. I saw him a couple times, but I can genuinely say this from the bottom of my heart. I've had an amazing mentors. My dad was amazing. I had great people in my life, but finding my first Zig Ziglar book changed my life. And then, I mean, dude, I became obsessed with that guy. And this is as I'm a poor guy, like I had nothing. I didn't go to college. I didn't do
Yeah.
this. And I was just a moron. And then I started changing my mindset and I could believe in myself because, like, I'm a good person. Oh, he was a good person. And look at all these tactics and strategies because he teaches, even though it's sales skills, he teaches more like self development and believing in yourself and the stories that believe in
Yeah.
yourself. So, for those guys and gals who've never heard of Zig Ziglar because they're that different age group, just grab every
Yeah.
single person who works there get secrets of closing the sales here. He's got see you at the top. He's got over the top. So,
Yes.
anyways, yeah, I'm a big Ziegler fan.
Oh, I love it. Same. That's great. So, before we wrap up, Scott, where can people find you? Where do you want people to engage with you? Whether it's via social media, through your website, or how would you want people to reach out to you? And maybe just a quick minute on the ideal type of clients that you're looking for to work with at your call center.
So I think anybody who's in entrepreneur or in REI should follow me at Lamassu Leads. I think the reason why I'm really proud of what we built is it's super authentic. Like I'm a no holds bar guy. This is a real operation for those guys and gals who can see it on. I think it's a real operation. Like it's a beautiful office. I've
Yeah.
invested into it. So this is a real company. I try to share as much of my journey and experience as possible on there. So I think it could give you a lot of good perspective. LamassuLeads.com is my website, but you can reach there via Instagram. And my ideal avatar for a follower is anybody who's excited about improving themselves as a Lamassu client. You're typically already doing a couple of deals a month, easy breezy. And you're looking to stabilize some marketing channels. You're looking to scale marketing channels. I have really monster affiliates. I worked hard on growing my avatar, but I'd say you at least need to be doing a couple of deals a month for it to make sense to reach out. Because you just don't want to bring an aircraft carrier to your local pond, and this is an aircraft carrier. And so we
Yeah.
just got to make sure we at least got a lake to do some circles in, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, Scott, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And I know this is super fun for me, and I think there's a lot of alignment in the way that we think about building teams and treating our people the way that we do, and excited to continue the conversations in the future.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me out, dude. This was wildly enjoyable, and it felt common and like just an old buddy. Even though it's the first time we've met,
Yeah.
like we're in the same shoes, trying to make the similar impacts, man. So again, it was a blessing. I thank you so much for having me on, Cody.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right,
We'll
talk to you,
talk
brother.
soon.